Yes, these you need, the yellow books. So the Tibetan for this holiday is Chokor Duchen, and Duchen means big day. Literally, I really like that, big day. They don't call it holiday, they say big day. So this is a celebration of the first teaching that the Buddha gave. So Chokor means Ch is Dharma and Kor is turning. So turning the wheel of Dharma. So turning the wheel of Dharma means presenting the teachings. So the first teaching that the Buddha gave was the Four Noble Truths in Sarnath to his first 5 disciples. And when we start reading the sutra, you'll see that one of the stories we're going to read is actually of the Buddha in a previous life when he gave his body to a tigress, and so that she wouldn't eat her cubs. And those cubs were actually the first 5 disciples. So later on, when after he was enlightened, then he gave the first teaching. In a previous life, he sacrificed his life. And in his first teaching, he gave to them. So before we start, let's sit for 5 minutes. So, and we'll set up a motivation. So if you can get comfortable into your meditation posture. And you want to think about having some stability with your 2 legs and your bottom, the 3 points of stability that are able to hold you upright with your back loosely straight. And once you get your posture set, you relax. So let your shoulders drop. And then it's helpful to become aware of where your seat meets the cushion or the chair. That sense of grounding. Imagining you can feel gravity holding you to the earth so you don't fly off. And then bringing your awareness into your body. You can start with your feet, becoming aware of the sensations in your feet. Allowing awareness to descend away from the thinking mind for now into sensation. And then slowly moving your awareness up your legs, slowly becoming aware of each part of your body. Noticing temperature, sensation. And if you notice pain or tightness, see if you can't soften around that. Holding it with loving presence. And as you move into the shoulder and neck area, and your jaws, and your face, these are the areas where we usually hold the most tension. So right now we can just give ourselves a break, releasing that, and simply being in the present moment within relaxation. And then we can spend a few moments generating gratitude. The sense of how fortunate we are to be human beings who have choice, intelligence, thinking about our health, time we have. This incredible opportunity right now to work with our minds. To participate in the Buddha's teachings. We have the freedom to be able to think about the suffering of others, to develop compassion and love for that. That we, each one of us, have this seed within us that can grow and flourish, experience bliss and joy, and bring that to others. This is such a precious opportunity. And then sitting here right now, each one of us can participate in this incredible history and lineage of all the beings who have ever thought about love, compassion, developing themselves to make the world a better place. We become a part of this community. One that is focused and has focused on something greater than just our own self-centeredness. And we can lean back in that connection. Feeling held and supported and together with so many other beings. Who have opened their minds in this way. So today, as we celebrate this wheel turning day, this big day of the Buddha's first teaching, we can imagine that we're doing this to bring more beings into the fold of celebrating their own potential, this connection. Especially those who are in very difficult situations. Of extreme suffering due to circumstances. We can imagine that they received the peace that we're spreading. because we're doing this activity today in the world, may that benefit spread everywhere. Okay, so we're going to do sutra reading today. So if you don't have one of these, okay, there are a few more up here, so you can come and get one. There are some along the front seats. So sutra reading has a lot of benefits. So when we talk about sutra, we're talking about the words of the Buddha. So as close as possible as we can get to actual words that the Buddha spoke are in sutras, and they don't always make sense, just so you know. Sometimes they make more sense than other times. Because again, they're, 2,600 years old. So I'm sure some has been lost in translation. However, there's essence, right? Meaning to them that is still present. So talking about the benefits of sutra reading, I have a really nice quote from Lama Zopa. So this is particularly the sutra that we're going to read is called I like the shortened, the Sutra of Golden Light, but there's a longer, very flowery title. The King of Glorious Sutra is called the Exalted Sublime Golden Light, a Mahayana Sutra. What Lama Zopa Rinpoche says about this, he says, Lama Zopa Rinpoche urges us to recite the Sutra of Golden Light for these reasons. The Holy Golden Light Sutra is the king of the sutras. It is extremely powerful and fulfills all one's wishes, as well as bringing peace and happiness for all sentient beings up to enlightenment. It is also extremely powerful for world peace, for your own protection, and for the protection of the country and the world. Also, it has great healing power for people in the country. Anyone can read this text, Buddhists and non-Buddhists who desire world peace. This also protects individuals and the country from what are labeled natural disasters of the wind element, fire element, earth element, and water element, such as earthquakes, floods, cyclones, fires, tornadoes, etc. They are not natural because they come from causes and conditions that make dangers happen. They come from past inner negative thoughts and actions of people and from external conditions. The benefits of reading the sutra are immeasurable. Reciting just a few lines of the Sutra of Golden Light creates more merit than making immeasurable offerings to the Buddha. Reciting this sutra directs one's life toward enlightenment. There is so much merit. One's life becomes so easy. Whatever one wishes for, one receives. There is unbelievable purification. One liberates numberless sentient beings from the oceans of samsaric suffering and brings them to enlightenment. So that's from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Sutra reading can also be very helpful for purification, especially of non-virtues related to our speech. So when we read a sutra, we are also imagining or acting as if our voices are the voices of an enlightened being. So when we say the words of a Buddha, we are acting as if we are Buddhas. And this is very good for the very opposite of when we have not used our speech very skillfully, when we have used our speech for lying or hurting others, either directly or indirectly, or just wasting our speech. So we can think of this activity also as purification. So there are two ways to visualize while reading sutras, and both can be done at the same time. So we visualize that the Buddha is giving you the teaching directly while you read the sutra, and you actualize realizations in your heart while you are reciting. So you're getting a teaching from the Buddha. And then also you can visualize that you are giving the teachings to sentient beings as you read the sutra out loud. Since dogs, cats, birds, spirits, and other beings can hear as you recite, and monkeys, you can invite the spirits and devas to listen as well. The sutra is medicine for the mind's delusions, where all sufferings come from. When you read the sutra, visualize that you are giving teachings to the beings of all 6 realms, offering them the opportunity to actualize the path and be liberated from their delusions, defilements, karma, and suffering. Okay, so what we figured out was the best way to do this was to have me read out loud, but then you guys read along quietly. So it's important for the purification part that you also engage your breath. So you kind of whisper it, okay? You don't say it really out loudly, but you do have to say it. This is a way, sometimes when there's different ways that you can chant mantras. You can chant mantras really loud. You can put them to a tune, but you also oftentimes say them so that only you can hear them. Okay. So this is that's how we're going to do this. All right. So I'll say it out loud and you guys read along. So we're going to start, since we can, of course, read the whole thing today. We're going to start on page 123, the chapter on the tigress. Pages here. Page 81. Okay. So I'm gonna, not 81. Oops. Okay. All right, so I'm trying to do Zoom at the same time. Page 123, everybody with me? Okay. All right. So chapter on the tigress. Furthermore, O noble goddess, a bodhisattva gives away even their body and life to help others. How is that so? Accompanied by 1,000 bhikshus, the Tathagata, projecting bright rays of hundreds of pure and vast virtues to heaven and earth, possessing power to eclipse challengers with unobstructed wisdom, sight, and power, was passing through the regions of the Panchalas when they came to a certain forest. There he saw an area lush with dark green soft grass and embellished with assorted fragrant meadow flowers. Seeing this, the Tathagata said to the Venerable Ananda, "This site is beautiful, Ananda. It has the mark of being the place of a Dharma teaching. Lay a seat for the Tathagata." As instructed by the Tathagata, a seat was set up. Having set up the seat, Ananda said to the Tathagata, "The seat is laid, O transcendent Lord, chief and supreme among bipeds. Freeing beings from bondage, you bestow supreme benefit upon humans. Be seated and may the nectar of sublime discourse for the benefit of humans kindly be given. Then the Tathagata sat on that seat and addressed the bhikshus in this way. Would you like to see the remains of a bodhisattva who performed tasks that are difficult to perform? When addressed in this way, those bhikshus replied to the Tathagata, O sublime sage, the time is right for us to see the remains of one, the best of supreme beings in whom rested inconceivable virtues of immense patience, fortitude, and wisdom, delight in calm humility and the mind of recollection. Tell us well. Then the Tathagata struck the surface of the earth with his hand, whose palm was soft as the newly bloomed lotus and marked with a 1,000-spoked wheel. As soon as he struck it, the earth shook in 6 ways, and there arose a stupa made of silver, gold, and jewels. Then the Tathagata said to the Venerable Ananda, Ananda, open this stupa. Heeding these instructions, the Venerable Ananda opened the stupa. Inside, he saw an urn covered with gold and inlaid with jewels and pearls. Having seen this, he said to the Tathagata, O transcendent Lord, there is an urn made of gold. The Tathagata said, open these 7 urns. Accordingly, he opened them. He saw relics whose colors were like snow and white lily. Seeing this, the Venerable Ananda said to the Tathagata, O transcendent Lord, there are relics. So relics are bones or, leftover ashes of a holy being. When the Tathagata said, Ananda, bring here the relics of the great being. Then the Venerable Ananda took those relics and brought them to the Tathagata. Taking the relics to the 1,000 bhikshus and holding them in his hand, the Tathagata addressed them in this way. Here are the bones of one endowed with excellent virtue and supreme intellect, humility, meditation, delight through patience, and sublime fame. One who continually strove for the wisdom of his enlightenment, intelligent and possessing steadfast, joyous perseverance. He always delighted in giving. Then the Tathagata said this to the 1,000 bhikshus, O bhikshus, offer homage to the Bodhisattva's relics, fully charged with ethics and virtue, which are a field of merit and extremely rare to see. Then their hearts filled with aspiration, those bhikshus paid homage to the relics with hands folded in reverence. Then with hands folded, the Venerable Ananda addressed the Tathagata in this way. The Tathagata, transcendent victor, has arisen above all the world and is venerated by all beings. How is it that the Tathagata venerates these remains? Then the Tathagata replied in this way to the Venerable Ananda, Ananda, it is because of these relics that I quickly awoke to peerless and supreme enlightenment. Ananda, formerly in a time long past, there was a king called Maharatha who possessed chariots, wielded great power, and defeated opponents through unobstructed might and strength. He had 3 sons who were like sons of the gods, Mahaprananda, Mahadeva, and Mahasattva. One day, the king went to a park for sport. Drawn by the enchanting qualities of the park and wishing to find flowers, the princes ran about and entered the great Dvadashvana Gulma forest. As the princes ran about, their attendants were dismissed and went their own way. The princes entered the thick 12 forests of that fully protected forest reserve. Then Mahaprananda spoke to his brothers. My heart is overwhelmed by fear. We might be killed by wild beasts. Stay close. Mahadeva said, as for me, I have no fear, but I am anxious I might be separated from my loved ones. Mahasattva said, here in the forest solitude, acclaimed by seers, I am not anxious, nor have I fear. This heart of mine is greatly overjoyed in hope of finding opportunity for vast and great benefit. Then, as the princes strolled through the forest, they came upon a tigress who had given birth the previous week. Surrounded by her offspring, hungry and thirsty, famished, her body extremely feeble. Seeing her, Mahaprananda said, "Alas, it would be 6 or 7 days since this wretch gave birth. She has not found food. Either she will die of starvation or devour her own cubs." To this Mahasattva said, "What is the food of this wretch?" Mahaprananda said, "Here they say fresh meat and warm blood is food suitable for tigers, bears, hyenas, and lions." Mahadeva said, "This wretch, her body tortured by hunger and thirst, has little life left. She is extremely feeble and cannot look for food. Who would sacrifice their life to save hers?" Mahaprananda said, "O good fellows, giving one's body is a daunting task." Mahasattva said, "For people like us, feeble-minded and greatly attached to the body, such an act is difficult indeed. However, great beings embark on giving their bodies completely and dauntlessly, strive for others' welfare. Moreover, born of affectionate love and compassion, Arya beings who consider their bodies as just obtained in heaven or on this earth, their joyous minds most agreeable to saving others' lives, remaining steadfast, would have 100-fold compassion in this case." Feeling very sad, the young prince looked at the tigress for a length of time without blinking, then went on his way. Then Mahasattva had this thought, "Now the time has come for me to give this body away. Why? Although I have long guarded this putrid body, subject to death and decay, providing it with food and drink, clothing, vehicles, and luxurious beds, ultimately it is doomed to crumble and end in woe. This body has no purpose save to abandon its unknown nature. Furthermore, since it is wholly impure, it will not endure. Now I should use it for a noble end. Thus it shall be for me like a boat crossing the ocean of death and rebirth." Moreover, giving this body possessed of hundreds of abscess-like existences, filled with feces and urine, without core, like foam, bearing hundreds of worms, laying waste to what has been done, I shall attain the Dharmakaya's timeless state, free of the afflicted aggregates. So Dharmakaya is the mind of a Buddha. Sourless and endowed with samadhi, replete with hundreds of stainless virtues. His heart brimming with supreme compassion and resolve, he asked his brothers to leave him. "You two can go off. I am returning to the forest for a personal thing." Then Mahasattva left that part of the forest and returned to where the tigress was. He hung his clothes on a forest creeper and prayed, "To benefit transmigrating beings, may I attain the peace of peerless enlightenment. My mind compassionate and steadfast, I give this body which others find hard to give up. May I achieve the flawless, priceless enlightenment that bodhisattvas so keenly seek. I shall free beings in the triple worlds from the intense fear of the ocean of existence." Then Mahasattva lay in front of the tigress, but the tigress did nothing to the compassionate bodhisattva. The bodhisattva thought, "Alas, she is too weak and incapable." He rose up in search of a sharp weapon and did not find one. Taking hold of a strong branch of bamboo stick, 100 years old, he cut his throat and fell down before the tigress. When the bodhisattva fell down, the earth shook in 6 ways, like a boat pounded by the winds amidst the sea. The sun, as if caught by Rahu, did not shine with its rays. Flowers mingled with divine perfumes and powders fell. Then a certain goddess, her mind overwhelmed with astonishment, praised the Bodhisattva. O noble-minded one, holding all beings in your compassion, here as you joyfully give your body, hero among men, before long and without trouble, you will find pristine peace, that tranquil supreme state, devoid of birth and death's pain. Then, licking the blood-stained body of the Bodhisattva, the tigress reduced his body to bones without flesh and blood. Feeling the earthquake, Mahaprananda said to Mahadeva, the way the earth with its seas greatly shook, as far as the oceans in all 10 directions, the way the sun lost its rays and a rain of flowers has fallen, my mind is troubled. My brother has now given his body. Mahadeva said, considering the words of compassion he spoke and the way he keenly observed the tigress, tortured by suffering and weak, nearly eating her cubs, I too am troubled. Then, overcome by extreme grief, their eyes filling with tears, the 2 young princes went back along the path to where the tigress was. They saw his clothes hanging on bamboo shoots, his bloody bones scattered about, his hair spread in every direction. Upon seeing this, they fainted and fell down upon the remains. Reviving after some time, they raised their arms and issued a wretched cry. Alas, our beloved brother, the king and our mother too were most devoted to their son. Our mother will surely ask, where did you leave the 3rd one of you, he whose eyes are long as lotus petals? Alas, for the 2 of us in this part of the forest land, living is not as good as meeting death. Having lost Mahasattva, how will our parents care for us? Then, lamenting in many ways, the 2 young princes went on their way. Their servants, running in all directions in search of the princes, saw them and asked, Princes, what happened? What happened? At that moment, the queen was lying on her bed. She dreamed a dream showing separation from a loved one. Her 2 breasts were cut off and her teeth were wrenched out. Finding 3 young frightened doves, one was snatched by a hawk. Terrified by the earthquake, the queen awoke suddenly and thought, why did this sustainer of beings clothed in oceans so violently shake? The sun was robbed of its rays, pointing to the sorrow in my heart. In my dream, my body was weak. My eyes quivered, my breasts were cut off. I wonder if my sons gone to the forest to play sport are well. As the queen sustained these thoughts, a maidservant entered. Distressed, she spoke to the queen. Mother, the prince's attendants search for the prince. It is heard that your beloved son has perished. When she heard these words with trembling heart and eyes filled with tears, the queen approached the king. Lord, I have heard that my darling son has perished. The king too was distraught. With trembling heart, he said, I have lost my beloved son. To give solace to the queen, the king said, Good queen, do not grieve. I will immediately search for our prince. As he set off, he saw a gathering of people crowded about. Then the king saw the 2 princes approaching from afar. Upon seeing them, the king cried, The princes are coming, but not all 3. Alas, it is agony to see oneself bereaved of a son. The joy of gaining a son for a man does not equal the pain of losing a son for another. Are those men not happy who have no sons in the world, or those who have met death with their children still living? Overcome with grief, the queen, like a she-camel struck in the vital part, issued a most wretched cry. If my 3 sons with their assembly of servants entered the forest clearing overgrown with blossoms, my youngest darling son has not returned. Where is the last son who is like my heart? When the 2 princes came near, the king asked, Where is the youngest of you? Grief-stricken, their eyes filled with tears, their mouths dry, they said nothing. The queen asked, where is my youngest son? My heart is about to burst. My body is in unbearable pain. My mind is failing once. Then the two sons told what had occurred. Upon hearing it, the king and queen became senseless. When they regained their sanity, they wept pitifully and went to that place. Seeing the bones without flesh, blood, or muscle, and the hair scattered about, the king and queen fell to the ground like trees blown down by the wind. The priest and ministers witnessed these events, then refreshed and revived the bodies of the king and queen with salves of Malaya sandal. Upon reviving, the king arose and cried this lamentation. Alas, beloved son, affectionate and jovial, why have you gone so quickly to death's domain? Why has death not come to me instead? Never have I felt suffering greater than this. With bedraggled hair beating her chest, the queen too wailed pitifully. She writhed on the ground as does a fish thrown onto dry land, a female buffalo deprived of her young, a she-camel whose offspring has perished. Alas, who has crushed and scattered on the ground my darling son, this lotus most loving? Which enemy of mine on this earth today has slain my son of charming eyes and moon-like face? Alas, when seeing the best of sons slain upon the ground, why does this body not collapse? This heart of mine is clearly made of iron. It does not crack in the face of tragic pain. Today in my dream, my breasts were cut with a sword. My teeth were wrenched from my mouth. And today my darling son is suddenly no more. Just as one of 3 doves I held was snatched by a hawk, today surrounded by 3 sons, death has seized one. Alas, the fruit of my evil dream has come to pass. Then the king and queen lamented in many ways. Surrounded by a large crowd, they bared themselves of ornaments, paid homage to the remains of their son, and laid his remains in this place. Ananda, if you think the young prince called Mahasattva at that time, at that moment was another, do not see it like that. Why? At that time, at that moment, I was the young prince called Mahasattva. Ananda, even before I was wholly free of ignorance, hatred, and desire, I saved beings from the sufferings of the hells. Now that I am free of all weakness and arrived at enlightenment's perfection, how much more would I wish to free all beings? In this way, for the sake of just one being, I have happily remained in the hell realms for eons. I have freed beings completely from the cycle of birth. With the most excellent of hearts, I have helped all beings and performed numerous different daunting tasks. Okay, so we'll stop there. And then we're going to do a little bit more meditation on the 4 immeasurables. So we can become like the Bodhisattva that Buddha was. So if you have the silver book, you can open it to page 17, but if not, I'll read it aloud anyway. And we'll start with the thought of equanimity. So just a quick reminder, equanimity is treating all beings without judgment. It's also having a very calm, stable mind. So I'll say the prayer and then we'll meditate on it for a few minutes, okay? Equanimity. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of hatred and attachment, not holding some close and others distant. May they abide in equanimity. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. So first thinking about what it means to have a stable, non-judgmental view. Try to remember the times when you kept calm. Even in the face of difficulty, even in the face of difficult people. Remember a time when you didn't judge someone as bad or evil, but instead had compassion for their negative actions, recognizing that they were suffering or disturbed in some way. Remember what it feels like to have a peaceful, calm mind. Mind filled with contentment and gratitude, acceptance. And then imagine light rays going out from your heart, bringing that equanimity to all beings. You can think about specific beings who might need the peace of mind right now. Imagine all beings receiving that peaceful, undisturbed, stable mind. And then the second immeasurable, loving kindness. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the cause of happiness. May they have happiness and its cause. I myself will cause them to have happiness and its cause. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. So get in touch with that kind, caring feeling in your heart. What does it feel like to truly love someone, to want them to be happy without strings attached? And then you can expand that feeling. May all beings be happy. May each and every being have exactly what they need to grow and flourish. May all beings experience joy each and every day. May all beings experience joy and deep contentment. And then compassion. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free of suffering and its cause. May they be free of suffering and its cause. I myself will cause them to be free from suffering and its cause. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. So developing empathy for the suffering of beings. Those who are suffering from hunger, thirst, illness, out of their control. Each one of us who are aging and subject to death. And then having a sincere wish to remove that suffering, a determination. Each time I have empathy, I will become more determined to stop it. And then immeasurable joyfulness. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never separated from the happiness of higher rebirth and liberation. May they never be separated from these. I myself will cause them never to be separated from these. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. So for this one, we simply engage in rejoicing. So first you have to remember what it feels like to feel joy. And then you pair that with positive actions that you've done. When you were kind, when you worked with your mind, did your meditation, and then feeling joy for others' positive actions. All the kindness that exists in the world. All the service providers and mothers, fathers. Those who care for others. Feeling a sense of rejoicing at every moment a human being chose to set aside their own self-centeredness to benefit others. And feel joy in that. And then I'm going to read some dedication prayers. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may each one of us quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. Due to the merits accumulated by the 3 times by myself and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which are empty from their own side, may the I, who is empty from its own side, achieve the state of enlightenment, which is empty from its own side. and lead all sentient beings who are empty from their own side to that state as quickly as possible by myself alone. Because of all the merits of the 3 times, that's past, present, future, created by me and all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other sentient beings, may there be no wars, famines, disease, quarreling, fighting, or unhappy minds. May there be great prosperity, and may everything needed be easily obtained. May all the human beings in the world be guided by spiritual leaders, and may everyone enjoy the happiness of Dharma. Okay, thank you very much for joining me. We have Dharma movie at 2:00, The Life of Buddha, and Medicine Buddha Puja at 4, and more guided meditation with the light offering. We light all the butter lamps at 6:30 this evening.